Hi everyone, this is Electra. Thank you for watching. I'm going to talk about the Texas Constitution and what may be the fallout of um, this situation we're seeing in Texas unfold. I am wondering if it's going to be the beginning of a secession crisis that's about to grip the United States because, well, I don't see either side backing down. And I did some looking into the Texas Constitution uh, to see like what could actually happen here because this is kind of an unprecedented situation. I'm not aware of any times this has happened before anywhere, let alone in Texas. I mean, really, the closest thing I could think of is the beginning of the secession crisis in late 1860, in like winter spring 1861, and the beginning of the Civil War when like almost all Southern representatives of Congress left the United States Senate to join the Confederate States Senate or Congress, I should say. And if what happened then is any indication, um, I don't think things are looking too good for the Texas Democrats. And perhaps they know this, and perhaps they're willing to make this stand and possibly fall on their swords here because what happened in 1860, 61, clearly that's a long time ago, but it's still affecting us today because, well, our Constitution, I mean, the US Constitution is still virtually the same in that area. And the Texas Constitution that I'm going to reference today is from 1876, which was it was their first constitution after Reconstruction. So when the Southern Redeemer regimes took back the Southern state governments from the Reconstructionists, every Southern state they put in a new constitution to basically eliminate all the Reconstruction influences and bring it back to like their version of an ideal South. And here on the state of Texas website, so this is the Texas Constitution of 1876, and the state of Texas. Actually, looks like it's the state of Tarleton Law Library, University of Texas. So first of all, let's look at how they describe this Constitution. The Constitution of 1876 remains in force. Unlike the 1869 Constitution, the 1876 Constitution generally reflected public opinion in Texas at the time of its drafting. That's a really whitewashed way of saying this was a reaction to Reconstruction and it's white supremacist AF. Very nice way of putting that. Anyway, I digress slightly. The current Constitution of Texas. So let's look at the important sections here, in my opinion. The Texas Constitution, Article 3, this is Section 10, Article 3 of the Texas Constitution, Section 10. This is about quorum, adjournments from day to day, compelling attendance. 2/3 of each house shall constitute a quorum to do business, but a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. I don't see much there. This is one thing is like these are very vague regulations and laws. If these were war game rules, if this was the rule book to any board game, it would never get published because these rules would be too vague to play. So I'm not a lawyer. I know I'm pretending to be one on YouTube, but I'm not a lawyer in any sense. I've never been to law school. I'm just bringing up some things that I hope the Democrats are considering because I think this was going to really get bad this week, and not bad. I mean, not bad is relative, right? But things are going to dominoes are going to start falling. That's what I'm trying to say. And this could be the first domino of a secession crisis that could spread and what's concerning me about that is the fact that, and I brought this up last year on my now deleted Twitter account, that uh, this is why Kamala Harris really needed to win the presidency last year, um, because now that the fascist government is in power, they're the Union. They would be the Union in any civil conflict that were to erupt. It's as if the Confederacy infiltrated the United States government in 1861 instead of seceding. And the forces that would represent the Union in 1861 would actually be the rebels today. So this could be like a complete mirror image of the first Civil War. That's the theory I came up with last year, and it's starting to look like that's what we're heading towards if things don't calm down, and I don't think they will. Neither side is going to back down at this point. It's clear. The Democrats have nothing to lose, and the Republicans are trying to exert their pressure, their power, and their control over the people that they think are basically their modern day slaves. Anyway, Section 11, Article 3, Legislative Departments. The only thing in here I see that's potentially important, if they call this behavior disorderly conduct, they can punish the members with the consent of 2/3 of the House. So the House in this case is what it's either the House or the Senate. They say each House may determine the rules of its own proceedings, punish members for disorderly conduct, and with the consent of 2/3 expel a member, but not a second time for the same offense. Okay, well, one time's all they're going to need on this. So what happened in 1861 with the US Senate and House? When the southern states started seceding at very late 1860 in the case of South Carolina, all the way into the spring of 1861 for the upper South, like Virginia and Arkansas. So a lot of these representatives were reelected, but they just did not show up in Washington when this new session started, 36th Congress. So they essentially just they abandoned their seats. But they never actually took them, so they never had to be expelled. But the ones that were already in office in that position, when they didn't show up, the House Republican majority, which remember at this case, in this point, the Republican majority were all Northerners. There were no Southern Republicans at the beginning of the Civil War. They were all Democrats. So these Northern Republicans just expelled them. I didn't look into the exact procedures of the expelling, but if they want to do what the Northern Republicans did to the seceding Southern Democrats in 1861, all they would have to do is expel the members. They don't even have to arrest them. I think that's just grandstanding and possibly a red herring or a distraction from Greg Abbott. And really all he has to do is expel them. And then when they have open seats, this is in Section 13, Article 3, vacancy in legislature. When vacancies occur in either house, the governor, Jim Abbott, think of that picture, Greg Abbott, shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. So in other words, he has to issue a writ to require new elections in their vacated seats. We might say, great, that just means another Democrat will get elected. But what? There's no reason to indicate, there's nothing to think that this is going to go like any normal election. And there is a section in here that almost makes me think they can name their own candidate. This is under B. The legislature may provide by general law for the filling of a vacancy in the legislature without an election if only one person qualifies and declares a candidacy in an election to fill the vacancy. So if the Texas House Republicans want to deem, again, like how do they determine this? It's not in the law. I don't know if there's any precedence that's happened with this before in Texas. That's probably what would have to be consulted. But if there never has been, the Republicans can essentially name their own candidate, and they just fill the vacancy. So essentially, the entire Texas House of Representatives could be Republican, like if not, it's going to be Republican dominated, if not completely Republican. And at that point, they're gonna pass whatever they want with abandon. That was what the Northern Republicans did in 1861 in the U.S. House. And at that point, it was a Northern institution. They passed things like the Transcontinental Railroad that never was passed. They tried to pass it numerous times when the South was still in the Union, and they couldn't. But as soon as the Southern Democrats left due to secession, the Northern Republicans finally had free reign to pass everything they wanted, which at that time, that was a good thing. Now, the Republicans in Texas are essentially the modern day Confederates and the Southern Redeemers post Reconstruction. That's the situation we're in. And lastly, Section 23, Article 3, vacancy following removal from district or county from which elected. If any senator or a representative remove his residence from the district or county for which he was elected, his office shall thereby become vacant, and the vacancy shall be filled as provided in Section 13 of this article, which is what I just read. This particular statute is from February 15th, 1876. This has not changed at all since 1876. And what I interpret this as saying is, if they can declare the Texas Democrats no longer a resident of the state of Texas, which there is an amount of time where that happens. And it depends on the state. Usually it's around 30 days. If these Texas Democrats don't go back to Texas and just return to their seats, at some point they will be declared no longer Texas residents, and thereby their seats will become vacant that way. So there are numerous ways that they could be really giving up any Democratic power in Texas. This can turn very bad depending on how these laws get interpreted. And I don't think I'm totally being a chicken little doomer here. I don't see any reason for the Republicans to go easy on them. So this could get bad. And now that the Texas Democrats are in the largest blue states like California, Illinois, New York, this can easily turn into a major secession crisis, except this time it's going to be the blue states seceding from the so-called red states. The problem is that even in the red states like Texas, there are tens of millions of Democrats. There are more Democrats in the state of Texas than there are in almost every state except California and probably New York. So that's the thing here. It's not just like, oh yeah, Texas is 100% Republican, screw them. No. I lived in Texas as recently as 7 years ago, and there's people that are still there that don't agree with anything that's happening, much like the US and Americans in general on the world stage. Canada, for example, is like, okay, I think they mostly realize that not every American is happy with the current state of our government, but we're still here, and unfortunately, it's the government that decides how things go. And so, anyway, I think that's about it on this one. So, long story short, this can get bad quickly for the Texas Democrats. They're likely going to lose their seats. There's a couple ways that could happen, either by being declared non-residents or by the governor calling for an election that is going to be rigged as all get out. And they may even just name their own one Republican candidate to take their seat. And either way, this is not going to end well. So what do you think about, is this a total, now granted, I could be totally off base here. I'm not a lawyer. I'm interpreting the laws as they're written. I don't know of any legal precedents in Texas. There may be some here that would help guide this discussion. I don't know of them, and I don't have time to really research that much. But just from my cursory research today, I'm not encouraged by what I'm seeing. So, but sometimes you got to make a stand on something that may or may not. Sometimes you got to lose a battle to win the war, and I think that's really kind of the situation we're in right now. We're no longer in a resistance phase. The resistance has ended. It failed, and now we're in a cold civil war. And as of now, we're inflicting pain on the enemy through legislative means still. And at this point, this is really the only ammunition that Democrats have, at least in the state of Texas. So that's where we are. The dominoes are going to start falling this week, I think, and we'll see what happens. Let me know if you have any comments, or if I'm off base, or if you're a lawyer in Texas, by all means, please, I'd love for you to chime in. And thanks again for watching. Please subscribe, share this with anyone you know who may like this content, and please support me via buy me a cup of coffee if you'd like to see more of this content. And I will speak with you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.